Hello everyone. So we would like to welcome you all for this course, this weekend course, Bhagavad Gita Made Easy for Corporates. So I would take this pleasure to welcome all of you, and I would like to introduce our speaker for today. So our speaker is Shri Achyut Mohandas Prabhuji. I'll just give a brief introduction about him. So Prabhuji did his BTech from NIT Surathkal, and he was one of the toppers there. And in fact, he was elected as the student president at NIT Surathkal for the year of 2004 and 5. And like he has many other achievements there, being in college and before that in his school life and in his young age. He was gold medalist in National Maths Olympiad. And other than that, he was very much instrumental in pioneer student spiritual youth clubs at institutes like NIT Trichy, IIT Chennai, etc. And other than this, he was a national level badminton player, and in fact he was amongst few of the toppers of his branch who were placed very first when the companies started coming. So in his BTech, after his BTech, he got placed with Oracle Corporation, Shell, Time Coaching Services at Mumbai and Bangalore. And in fact, he was also serving 1 year as visiting faculty at IIM Bangalore for spiritual and ethical courses. And he has given multiple sessions for several students across different IITs, IIMs, NITs. And he is the founder of Vocals, an NGO which helps young students to come out of addictions, bad habits. And he is like youth counselor, motivational speaker, leadership strategist, and personally he's guiding many of the youths, hundreds of youths across the nation from different colleges, from different walks of life. He's guiding different corporates as well. So today's seminar, today's session, and in fact we'll be taking it as a series of sessions over upcoming weekends, in which we'll try to cover consecutive chapters from Bhagavad Gita, try to understand from his wisdom, from his point of view, like we'll hear him explaining in an authentic manner, in an authoritative manner about Bhagavad Gita. And so I would take this pleasure to introduce His Grace Achyut Mohan Prabhu. So Prabhuji, over to you now. And I would request all of you to kindly mute your microphones.
Unmuted or muted?
All of you can mute it. Yes, Prabhuji, you may start.
Hello? Yeah, Himanshu?
Right. So I am very glad and very happy to be here amongst all the participants, and it gives great joy to be able to interact with the intelligent people of today's age who are very much interested and eager to understand this most important science in life, which is the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So how we'll go about this is, every day we will take 75 minutes. Today being the first day, we are taking 90 minutes. Every day we'll be taking 75 minutes and we'll be covering a chapter. So roughly we will be taking 65 minutes of discussion of each chapter, 65 to 70 minutes, and 5 to 10 minutes we will keep for question answers discussion. Today what we'll be doing ahead is that we will be covering the first chapter and little bit prelude before that of the chapter, and then uh, we will be seeing some of the most frequently asked questions. So quickly we'll see them. So starting from now, for 60 minutes or so, we'll cover the chapter and see some prelude of the first chapter, and then 7:10 to 7:25 or so, we'll be taking those frequently asked questions, and then in case there are one or two questions, then we'll take them from 7 in the last 5 to 10 minutes, and that's it for today. So let us begin with prayers to the Supreme Lord and to all the acharyas and great sages who have taught us this great science since the days of yore. Om Ajnantimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantike. Hare Krishna. So right at the outset, I would like to congratulate four personalities without whose blessings we cannot go ahead with this discussion. Actually, in the material fields of studies, just the knowledge or the information factor is sufficient. But in the spiritual field of studies, much more than the knowledge or the information, are the practice, are the genuine practice of that same knowledge in our life. And even more than that, what is important are the blessings of those by whose grace we have received that knowledge in our life. So I feel very happy and proud in accepting that I have been blessed by my teachers, by my spiritual master, by the Supreme Lord, and so many of my friends, the devotees, with whose inspiration, along with whom I have been able to practice in the last 16 years this Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in my life. Otherwise, personally, I do not have any qualifications. Material qualifications are not at all related for any kind of spiritual potency. So I am going to act like a postman who's going to just share with you the message which is from the Supreme Lord and the great acharyas for you and me both. I am also along with you in the same boat, just playing a role. So I seek the blessings of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna himself, Sri Vishnu, Sri Krishna, Sri Rama, by whose blessings ultimately we all can gain spiritual advancement. And second, I seek the blessings of all of my teachers, my spiritual master, my Shiksha Gurus, my guides in my spiritual life, and countless number of the great pure acharyas who have since ages shown the path of spiritual life by their true practice. And third, I wish to thank my friends without whose inspiration and friendship it was just impossible to practice in this today's day and age the pure path. And fourth, last but not the least, I would like to thank all of you who are the participants of this course, and others who have been there in my life, who have allowed me to share this knowledge and thus giving me a chance to remember the Lord himself. So let us begin from here. So before we begin the Gita, it is very important that we understand the background of the Battle of Kurukshetra. So I'll just take 5 minutes to explain the background of the Battle of Kurukshetra. So Mahabharata is one of the greatest Vedic literatures and is very huge. Practically the single book Mahabharata consists of 1 lakh shlokas, extremely huge. And this Mahabharata, in the middle of it is the message of the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is 700 shlokas. So, statistically speaking, only 0.7% of Mahabharata is actually the Gita. The technical name of Gita is Gita Upanishad. It's the Upanishad which is called as the Gita. Gita actually means the song of God, which he has sung on the battle as a message of love for his devotees like Arjuna, like all of us. So, what is Mahabharat? Mahabharat means the history of the great history of India. Mahabharat. Or the history of the great nation called India. So at that time, this entire planet was called as Bharatavarsha, or even the entire Brahmanda for that matter. So the most important people were all gathered in the battle of Kurukshetra, like the same place which we call as Kurukshetra today in the northern India, in the province of Haryana. There is this place Kurukshetra, and this is the same place. There is a area called Jyotisar. There was this battle happening. So 64 crore people, yes, 640 million warriors, kings, soldiers, elephants, phalanxes, they were all there. 640 million. Even the battle of World War One, World War Two, Battle of Panipat, Battle of this, Battle of that. Anything we can pick up in the history of the modern man, and even all put together, they are nothing in front of the Battle of Kurukshetra. So what was the situation which led to this battle? There was this great Vamsha, this great Kula of Kuru dynasty, and the Kurus were somehow divided into two parts: the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Pandavas were the 5 sons of Pandu, and Kauravas were the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra and Pandu were the biological brothers. And because of certain things, certain reasons, right from the childhood itself, Duryodhan was extremely envious of the Pandavas. So they went to Gurukul together. They went to the same school, naturally belonging from the same family, same dynasty. And the school was an amazing one, the most amazing one that time, for the Kshatriyas, for the warriors. And Dronacharya was their teacher. But even there, even as a small child, Duryodhan acted very, very enviously. And there were multiple times when he even tried to harm or even take the lives of Pandavas. And because Dhritarashtra, his father, was most attached to him, therefore he would also later on construe the plans along with him. So Mama Shakuni, Dushasan, and Duryodhan and Dhritarashtra. These 4 were the main people in the earlier phase of the Pandavas, till the time Karna joined them. Till the time Karna joined Duryodhan. Till the time these 4 were the main people who would actually make plans and try to usurp everything which the Pandavas had, try to actually make them even die. And Kunti felt very much lonely. While they were very young children, very small kids, that time only Pandu had died because of the weakness in his body, and he had left 2 of his wives, Kunti and Madri. And later on, Kunti was the only one who was taking care of the children of both. So Yudhishthir, Bhima, and Arjuna were the sons of Kunti, and Nakula and Sahadev were the sons of Madri. But Kunti considered all of them her own sons, the most dear ones, and she was living for them actually. So she grew them alone as a lady, and she didn't have the support of Dhritarashtra also, because Dhritarashtra was also acting enviously to Pandavas and Kunti, and all the plans which happened in the later life of Pandavas and Kunti, like the Lakshagraha, where they tried to burn the very house, the very palace in which they were there. That was also in that plan. Also, Dhritarashtra was also involved. So Dhritarashtra knew the dharma. Dhritarashtra knew the discrimination. He knew ideally he should be actually supporting and giving love to the Pandavas, whose parents were not there, and even as a king, and they were his praja also, so he should be protecting them. But because of his attachment to Duryodhan, he was always there with Duryodhan in his nefarious plans to kill Pandavas. And as the tension grew, and later on when they became adults, the Pandavas, when they grew adults, So everyone knew, including the Pandavas, everyone knew that the kingdom rightfully belonged to the Pandavas, and Dhritarashtra was only supposed to be acting as their guardian till the time they become they grow up sufficiently to be ruling the kingdom. But Dhritarashtra, who was supposed to be only the caretaker of the kingdom on behalf of the Pandavas, as long as they grow up to be adults, Dhritarashtra knew this, but then his greed to continue ruling the kingdom was too high, and therefore he wanted the Pandavas also to die. So when the Pandavas, at the right age, when they came, when they were young, ripe men, so they came to sincerely and humbly request that allow us to serve now by leading the kingdom, which is rightfully our service. So Dhritarashtra just denied actually, and because of their negative ways of usurping what naturally belonged to the Pandavas, Dhritarashtra and company, Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana and company, they came up with so many ways, like the famous dice match. So there was this match in which they played gambling, and in that gambling, the Pandavas also lost their kingdom. The Pandavas had later on lost Draupadi also. So twice it happened. One time they were just sent to Indraprastha, and that was basically a place where it was like a deserted area. But then later on, the Pandavas had made it very beautiful. But again, in the second dice match, they took it away, everything. So Dhritarashtra was very, very envious in that way. And finally, when upon Krishna's request, the Pandavas were so humble, they just said that okay, after they had come back from the Vanvas, so when they came back after so many years, they just requested that at least give us 5 villages to rule, because something we have to do, and our nature is to, serve the people as the administrators. So that's what we know, and that's what our nature is. So please allow us. So we may not lead the entire world, all the states and nations, but at least allow us to be the leaders of 5 villages. Just simply 5 villages. Even in a state like Uttar Pradesh, there are lakhs of villages. Imagine how many villages would be there on the entire planet. So out of crores of villages, they were just asking for 5 villages simply to exist. But Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana didn't allow that. And then finally, Krishna also intervened that, Arey, just accept their request. What is the problem? As a peace messenger, as a Shanti Dut, he also intervened, but it was of no avail. And finally, because of the ego and envy of Duryodhana and company, this battle became inevitable. So, right from Krishna to everyone else, including all the Pandavas and Vidura and Bhishma and everyone who had little brains, they all wanted actually to avoid this battle. But somehow, because of the ego and selfish desires of Duryodhan, Dushasan, Shakuni, and Dhritarashtra and some of their associates, this battle became inevitable. And finally, this is where we are. So now, where does the first chapter begin? The first chapter begins where both the armies are stationed in front of each other, okay, in the holy land of Kurukshetra. And when they are in front of each other, they are simply waiting for that signal, that blowing of the conches, that okay, let us begin. So they were very civilized. It's not like, when there was the beginning call was not there. They didn't just begin, okay, kill someone, not like that. So now we will go ahead with this in the background. So you can imagine, for example, person like Bhima. Bhima was such a powerful person, powerful warrior, and he had seen so many injustices happening with his wife Draupadi, injustice happening with his mother Kunti, injustice happening with his brothers, and so many acts of intolerance happening with all the praja. And there were so many disrespectful acts which were done to him also. And a person like him who had the capability to kill others and all the reasons to kill others, and he knew the codes of conduct of dharma, and yet he had kept all his senses under control. He had tolerated his urge to attack on Duryodhana and company. Why? Because Yudhishthir Maharaj had always stopped him. That no, right now is not the right time. Let us try to solve it peacefully without any violence, and Krishna has not given a signal. So imagine, for example, Bhima, who had to keep himself under control, under check, despite all these injustices, while having the capacity to actually attack on everyone. He had to keep himself under control for so many decades, actually. And now he's being given a chance along with everyone that yes, do it rightfully. Imagine what kind of emotion must be there within him. So they are just waiting, actually, both the sides, some out of envy and some out of the right dharma, the right call of dharma. And while they are waiting, Krishna and Arjuna just take a stroll. I mean, just go for a stroll while seated on their chariot in the middle of the battle, in the middle of the Kurukshetra battlefield. Okay, and the battle has not yet begun, and this is being watched live by everyone else in the entire world. So Dhritarashtra is also very, very anxious to know. He was a blind old man, so he was sitting in his palace back in Hastinapur, but he was seeing it live. So what is the version of Gita we have? Sanjaya, who was seeing the match, the entire battle live, okay, in a goblet. He was seeing the entire battle live, and he was describing to Dhritarashtra what's happened in the battle. That is the Gita which we have. So let us go there and let us begin discovering for ourselves what amazing things are there in this Bhagavad Gita, which is so much glorified for ages. Shankaracharya, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ramanujacharya, and even people like Narendra Modi and so many others have been glorifying this Gita. People like Einstein, people like Newton. Einstein used to regularly read the Gita. He used to ask his Indian students who were studying under him, what is there in this amazing Gita? I'm not able to understand this part, that part, that part. You are from India. Please tell me. Please tell me. This is what is there in this Gita that today so many corporates and so many universities are having courses on Gita, accredited courses on Gita. There are schools in UK, in London, and many other places in Europe where they recite the chapters of Gita, the Sanskrit shlokas. Yes, the Sanskrit shlokas every day. Why? What is there in this Gita which has attracted, mesmerized, and helped and inspired so many? Even Gandhi used to say that my guide is the Gita. I always keep the Gita with me, and whenever I'm in difficulty and confusion, I look into the Gita and I find a verse to suit my situation. So, so let us see this Gita today, beginning with the chapter 1. So as you can see on your screen, Bhagavad Gita is compared to a jewel box. Why is it compared to a jewel box? The Gita is comprised of 18 chapters. So if you divide it into the 3 parts, first 6 chapters, middle 6 chapters, and the last 6 chapters. So the Acharya has explained that the first 6 chapters are the lower covering of the box, like the green one which you see here. And the last 6 chapters, they are like the jewel-studded lid of the box on the top. Now, what is the most important part of the box? Is it the lid or is it the base? Yeah, as such, all the parts are very important. At the same time, the most important part of the box would be what is there inside the box, right? And other parts are also important. So similarly, in the Bhagavad Gita, the first 6 chapters are important. The last 6 chapters are also very important. And the middle six chapters, they're the most important. Or like if you take the example of a sandwich, so there are 2 breads, 2 pieces of bread, and in the middle there is butter and jam and other stuff, right? So the most valuable, nutritious, tasty, and the most good-looking substance of the sandwich is in the middle. What's in the middle, right? So similarly, in the Gita, the first 6 chapters and the last 6 chapters, they are the protecting covering, and the middle 6 chapters, they are the substance of the Gita. So, but if you want to study the middle 6 chapters very nicely, The first and the last 6 chapters are equally important. Okay. So who should read the Bhagavad Gita? Who should read the Bhagavad Gita? The young people, yes, to learn how to live. The old people, to know how to die. The ignorant people, to get the wisdom to discriminate what to do in life and what not to do. The ignorant people, the learned people to learn humility. Vidya dadati vinayam. The rich people to learn compassion, to learn how to act as selfless servants of others, utilizing the gifts of God. The people who are dreamers, big dreamers, yes, for enchantment in life. The people who talk, that I want something practical, yes, to get the right counseling, to decide priorities in life, for decision making, for team playing. The weak people, yes, to get strength, to get mental confidence. The strong people, yes, to get direction, where to use their strength. The humble people, yes, to finally attain the goal of life. And the weary people, yes, to get rest from the so many different happenings of this world, which steal our peace of mind, which make us tired. The troubled people, yes, to get peace of mind. The doubting people, to get assurance, to feel sheltered in the grace of the Lord. The people who have done a lot of sins, yes, for salvation, for dissolving the reactions of those sins. And the seeker of truth, people who want to know the right knowledge. They want to gain the right understanding of what's life, what's death, what's beyond, what is this world for, who are we, who is God, why do good things happen to bad people, and everything else, to get moksha, to get liberation, and to put a full stop to all the challenges which we face in life, to all the miseries which we face, and just a general human being, anybody for that matter, for guidance, like a ship needing a compass. Even if you are Titanic, and you may be worth $5 billion a ship, yet you can do nothing good without a 5 rupees compass, because the compass may have no value in one sense. It may be just the simplest thing present on board the ship. But without compass, how will the ship ever know which direction to go? Similarly, any human being he may be, but he's not above guidance. He needs it. So Shankaracharya says in Gita Mahatmya, second verse, Gita dhyayana shilasya pranayama parasya cha naiva santi hi papani purva janma kritani cha. If one reads the Bhagavad Gita very sincerely and with all seriousness, then by the grace of the Lord, the reactions of his past misdeeds will not act upon him. Purva janma kritani cha. तो जैसे हम कभी कभी गंदगी से कुछ अगर कांटेक्ट कर लेते हैं, sometimes we get in contact with some dirt or some dust or something, then what do? Or like when you go out and you come back to your home, then what do? You use sanitization or you take a bath, so you remove all the dirt off, right, from your body. Similarly, from our previous lifetimes and our previous interactions in this world, we have gained a lot of layers of dust or contaminations. And this Bhagavad Gita can help us become liberated, become freed of all the ill effects of all of them. Okay. Purva Janma Kritani. Similarly, there is this verse, Malan Nirmochanam Pumsam Jalasnanam Dine Dine Sakrit Gita Mritasnanam Samsara Malanashanam. One may cleanse himself daily by taking a bath in water. But if one takes a bath even once in the sacred Ganges water of the Gita, for him the dirt of material life is altogether vanquished. So in this world, we have to again and again take bath, right? Every day. And even if you go to the Ganges, again and again you have to take bath. But the knowledge of the Gita, if you once sincerely and thoroughly, humbly take bath in this knowledge, just like Arjuna did, the rest of your life will be so clean, and you'll be delighted from within your heart. Just like when we take a bath, we become happy instantaneously, right? Just because we get rid of the the sweat, the dust, and all other things. Or when you go to pass stool and urine, you feel so much relieved. That is called mukti. So from similarly, when from our heart, the dust of the contamination of the viruses of the corona of lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, illusion, these things go away. Imagine life without lust. Imagine life without selfishness. Imagine life without greed. Imagine life without anger. Imagine life without envy for others. Imagine being a well-wisher of everyone else. Imagine feeling like throwing a party, a grand celebration. If anyone you see in this world attaining a success or becoming happy, you will have 1008 ways of becoming happy and celebrating life every moment if you become a true well-wisher of everyone else. And when will that happen? When we see everyone as part of our one family. And that's what spiritual life can do, right? And for that we need the Gita. Samsara malanashanam. गीता सुगीता कर्तव्या किम अन्य शास्त्र विस्तरै या स्वयं पद्मनाभस्य मुख पद्माद् विनिश्रता. Because the Gita is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one need not read any other Vedic literature. This one book, Bhagavad Gita, will suffice because it is the essence of all Vedic literatures, and especially because it is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So sometimes when you're not able to eat some solid foods, okay, you're in a disease situation, or you're in an emergency situation, or you go as astronauts, or you go as pilots, or you go in the Panadubbi, what do you call it, the submarines, So you take this like compact foods, they put all the nutrients and all and stuffed in a very little pieces. So similarly, Gita is like that. All the Vedic literatures put together in a nutshell is the Gita. You don't need anything beyond it. Sarvopanishado gavo dogdha gopta dugdam gitamritam mahat. So if you consider all the Vedic literature to be like a cow, and Lord Krishna himself to be like the milkman, the cowherd boy. So what is the essence of the cow? The milk, right? Similarly, the essence of all Vedic literature is the Bhagavad Gita. And that is what Krishna is taking out from the Vedic literature and giving to us. Now, the Vedic literature contain 1000 crore verses. How many? 1000 crore Sanskrit verses. Can you imagine how much time will be taking to even even go through them or keep them all stacked together in one place? Impossible for us to even study them and then understand and apply them. But what is Lord doing for us? These are the 700 verses. Take it, this essence of everything. Okay. So, and Arjuna represents us, is our representative. So we all need. And similarly, this verse from the Gita Mahatmya again, Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva Eko Mantrastasya Namani Yani Dharmapi Ekam Tasya Devasya Seva. Therefore, in this present day and age, what we need is just one scripture, one God, one religion, one occupation. Of course, this is not like an official statement. It is he's saying in great happiness that now it has become very simple for me. Why? I just know I have to study this Gita. That's all. And Gita is very simple if you learn it in the right association, in the right parampara. And he's saying, I just need one God, Krishna, sufficient. And one religion. What is that? Service to Krishna. Whether I may be whichever so-called religion and an external friend, but basically just serving that God selflessly with love. And one occupation, to chant that God's name and to hear about him, to learn about him, and to serve. Okay. So this was the glorification of Gita. Now, I would also like to just share with you for a minute or two that why do we in today's day and age, why should we be needing the Gita? A person may ask, okay, these are all things fine. Why do I need Gita? See, or why do I need spiritual life only? See, one very important simple consideration, that what are we all looking for in our life? practically anyone whom you ask, including our own selves, we all are looking for happiness and satisfaction. Ultimately, whether somebody is looking for those happiness and satisfaction by higher studies, somebody may be looking through sports, somebody may be looking through sexual activities, somebody may be wanting that through name and fame, somebody may be wanting through some inventions and discoveries, through whatever way, but ultimately we all are looking for happiness and satisfaction. Now, what has been our experience in this world? Do we get it? Yes, we do get it, in installments, in bits and pieces here and there. In the history of mankind, has everyone got it? Again, the same thing, in different proportions, in different quantities, in bits and pieces here and there. Even if some people have got a lot of happiness consistently and continuously in their life, lot of magnitude of happiness, lot of varieties of happiness, and consistently their graph has been high, let us say, even if somebody has been like that. But finally what happens? Death comes, old age comes, diseases come, and they terminate those happiness. Or relationship issues come, even between parents and children, even between husband and wife, brothers and sisters, between nations and nations, between societies and societies, between individuals, roommates, between boss and employee, between the colleagues, between the students in the same classroom. Everywhere there are conflicts, right? So somewhere or other we do experience a lot of challenges in this happiness, in this pursuit of happiness, and the fulfillment of heart is not there. We all feel like batsmen in a cricket match who are all on different scores. Somebody is just starting his innings, maybe he's on score of 4, somebody is on score of 95, somebody has just completed his half century, and somebody's on 99. But there is no one in this world who has experienced scoring 100. Everybody feels in different ways or other, everybody feels that if I can just get this many runs more, somehow I can just do this much more, somehow I can just achieve this one thing more in my life, and my life will be complete. I do remember right from my childhood, when I was a small child, I used to think if I can just get this cricket bat, or I can just get this video game, or when I used to play badminton, I used to think, if I can just get this racket, this Yonex racket, or this kit. So we all translate uh, uh, the success mantra in our life through different contextual uh, understanding of our life in that period of time, right? When we are young teenagers, we feel like if I can just get this girl or this boy for my pleasure, I'll be happy. You grow up, you look for a job or a company like that. Everybody has his own definition of this pursuit of happiness. And again, even if we achieve something, like let us say you get an iPhone, you badly wanted an iPhone, you get the iPhone. After a few days, the definition changes. That what would make me happy, what would make me successful. So the entire irony and the entire idea is that what is it which can actually consistently and clearly and fully and permanently satisfy me? That is love. Only love and selfless service. These are the two things, love and selfless service. We all want to love somebody and serve somebody, and we all want to be loved and to be served. So, what is spiritual life? Spiritual life is to come to a total satisfaction point of this love and service. Okay. How? When we understand that our eternal relationship is with God, and when we reestablish that relationship, and because of that central relationship with we establish relationship with everyone else also in this world, that's where we start experiencing total happiness. And then nothing of this world can inspire selfishness in our heart, because we will feel so satisfied. For example, if you get 10 crore rupees, will you ever feel any kind of envy or any kind of negativity or anything with anyone having 10,000 rupees or 5 rupees or 5 lakh rupees? Nothing, right? Because you've got so much, you'll be like totally satisfied. If you have got admission in whichever branch you want, whichever IIT, whichever IIM, whichever medical college, anywhere you can get. Okay? Whichever job you can get, whatever startup you can start, whatever you can do. If you have got that freedom, will you not want something good for others also? Okay, let everyone be happy, right? If you go to a party and you have got your stomach is totally full, and that time somebody brings something, sir, ye le lo, wo le lo, and you will say, "अरे नहीं मुझे नहीं चाहिए, अरे उसको दो, happily दो, मुझे चाहिए नहीं, I am totally satisfied." So what happens when we connect with God in the true sense? We feel such tremendous sense of satisfaction in our heart that we rise above all kinds of selfishness, and the connection with God is permanent. So that is spiritual life. Spiritual life is where we learn to reconnect back to that Supreme Lord with whom we have an eternal connection. Okay? And in that way, we connect back to this world also, everyone else also in this world. And how do we do that? That is what is called as process of yoga. So that may be karma yoga, bhakti yoga, or whatever. Basically, yoga means to reconnect plus addition. So yoga means to reconnect back with the Supreme Lord. Okay. Now let us go ahead. So what is the overview of Bhagavad Gita? The overview of Bhagavad Gita is the first 6 chapters will teach us how should we work, the art of work in this world. Okay, which work we should do, which work we should not do, and whatever work we have to do, in what spirit we should do, what should be our purpose while doing it, and what we should not be doing. Okay, so the art of work or learning to work in this world, that is first 6 chapters. Second 6 chapters or the middle 6 chapters is for whom to work. Like for example, a man goes to office and works hard day and night. I've seen people who travel every day 1 hour, 1.5 hour, 2 hours away from home for office. And in the office again they're there for 8 hours, 10 hours at times. Again they go back and they keep doing it for the whole week. Why? Or sometimes there are people who are away from their home in some big city like Delhi, Bombay, Hyderabad, Bangalore, or somewhere, and they're doing some work like running an auto or something and making some savings, themselves living quite scarcely, but saving more and more money, each and each paisa they are adding up. They want to send to their home for their kids and family to be happy. So they are working for somebody's pleasure, for somebody's happiness, in order to see a smile on somebody. So for whose pleasure should we work in life? For whose pleasure should we do all our activities in life? We need a reason, right? Like a soldier on the Kargil border in the Kashmir, why is he so happy and proud to have an opportunity to lay down his life, to become a martyr? क्यों वो जॉय कहाँ से आ रहा है? क्योंकि उसको मालूम है कि भारत माता या फिर भारत देश बहुत महान है. It's a great country and there are so many people whose lives I'll be affecting and saving by my sacrifice. So I'm happy to do it. Okay. Just like a mother, she sacrifices her time in the night. She has to sleep late, attend to everybody's needs, and then again morning she has to be the first one to get up. But what keeps her enthusiastic and happy and satisfied to go on doing it? Because she is aiming at the pleasure of all the family members. So yes, we have to look after the pleasure of all our family members, near and dear ones, friends, everyone else. And ultimately, we have to learn to work for Krishna. And why and how do we do that? That is taught in the middle 6 chapters. So first 6 chapters teach us how to work, and what work not to do. And the middle 6 chapters teach us for whom should we do that. Like Arjuna agreed to fight the battle of Kurukshetra, though he himself didn't have the motivation. But why he was very enthusiastic later on to fight? For Krishna. Duryodhana was also eager to fight, but for himself. So the Gita teaches us, Yat karoshi adashnasi yat joshi dadasya, yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat purusho madarpanam. Do whatever you are doing, eat whatever you are eating, do all your duties, take care of everything. For whom? For Krishna. जैसे एक स्टूडेंट जाता है कॉलेज में, हॉस्टल में, तो उसके फ्रेंड्स बोलते हैं, अरे ले 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 सुट्टा पी, सिगरेट पी, या है ना ये दारू पी. तो वो सोचता है हाँ यार पीता हूँ, अच्छा लग रहा है. फिर वो सोचता है नहीं, माँ बाप ने बोला नहीं पीना है, नहीं नहीं यार मैं नहीं पीऊंगा, अरे अच्छा होता है बेटा पी पी, अरे नहीं यार माँ बाप, तो for his parents, okay, I'll stay away from it. He is not feeling like enthusiastic to study, you know, and make his career, but then he remembers his parents. For the sake of parents, I'll do it. Okay, so like that. So for Krishna, learning to work for Krishna. And the third, the last 6 chapters, they teach us that how to how to balance ourselves in the dynamics which this world will present in front of us. So while we live in this world, because this world is not designed to make our life favorable all the time. Like you may want to, spend a lot of time hearing the Gita, but then your jobs, your business, your school, your college, or whatever else will come up in the middle, right? So how do we balance the dynamics? So the last 6 chapters, they teach us while being in this world, how to face the different obstacles and challenges, and how to balance different parameters, how to see this world also, like that. Okay, so let us go ahead. So now we begin from the first verse of the first chapter of the Gita. So I hope till now, in last 40 minutes or so, what discussion we had, it was clear. And in case any of you have any comments, you can always feel free to share in the chat box. Okay, so today although I was planning to do some icebreaker so that we all get to know each other and feel a little more comfortable, but today being the first day, was in order to give the prelude, it was a little difficult. So tomorrow we'll be doing that, and breaking that little ice which may be there, and thus feeling a little comfortable to share our thoughts with each other. Okay, but at any point of time, feel free to write in the chat box. Okay, so let us begin. So this you can also recite the verse with me if you seeing on your screen. Dhritarashtra uvacha dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha mamaka pandavaschaiva kim akurvat sanjaya. So this is the first verse of the first chapter of the Gita, where Dhritarashtra is speaking. Dhritarashtra uvacha. And what is he speaking? And to whom is he speaking? He is asking Sanjaya. Kim akurvata Sanjaya? Oh Sanjaya, please tell me that after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the holy place of Kurukshetra, Dharmakshetra Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, okay, Samaveta Yuyutsava, desiring to fight, what did they do? Kim akurvata Sanjaya? As such, this question is rhetorical. It doesn't make sense, because he's telling, they were gathered in a battlefield and they were desiring to fight, and they have stationed themselves there. What would they do? Obviously, they just fought ahead, right? But he's asking this question because he's desirous, he's doubtful, he's fearful, he's hopeful. What is it desirous of? Somehow or other, my sons may avoid this battle or they may win this battle. He's doubtful that his sons will somehow or other act foolishly, and is fearful that especially because of Krishna's intervention, although the Pandavas were weak party that time, yet they may win the battle. And he was hopeful that something amazing may happen out of the blue, and his side may win the battle. So what is the lesson we learn from here? That being on God's side is million times superior to one's own political diplomacy and material expertise. So you see, in the first 26 verses of the first chapter of the Gita, there is some description here and there in the middle, that how Duryodhan was highly relying on his material expertise, like his so many weapons which he had, and he had so many yodhas with him. His allies were more powerful and more in quantity than the Pandavas' allies. And he was very diplomatic to involve many other people, many other warriors along with himself. But Arjuna and the Pandavas on the other side had Dharma and Krishna on their side. So character is far more important than competence. Being on God's side is much more primary and far more superior than having great diplomatic and material expertise. Okay. Like here you see that Duryodhana's fear and diplomacy will be revealed. That Duryodhana approached Dronacharya after seeing the army of the Pandavas and spoke the following words. So this is the third verse. Pashyetam Panduputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum Vyudam Drupada Tava Shishyena Dhimata. So he was teasing Dronacharya that look at these people, look at the Pandavas. Oh, you only taught them, na? And now see, they are using it all against you. So Duryodhan actually was such a leader who didn't value his own people. He didn't trust and respect his own commanders and his own soldiers. And he relied on teasing them. He relied on showing them carrots. He relied even on threatening them. He relied on being political with them. So Duryodhan's fear and diplomacy is revealed right in the very first chapter of the Gita. Okay. So see, here is the summary of Duryodhana as we saw till now. That did Duryodhana want to give the Pandavas their share, and did he want to take advice of Krishna? Not much. What was more prominent in his personality was that he was feeling insecure because of Pandavas being alive. Imagine if you were there in the place of Duryodhana. You had crores of villagers, and these Pandavas are asking that as such the entire kingdom belongs to us. But even if we don't want to fight and all, at least give us 5 villages. Will be peaceful. I mean, probably you and me would have given it, right? Would have given 500 villages also. No problem, Baba, take. But this guy was so insecure that no, Pandava should not be alive on. We should just kill them permanently. And second thing was he had great attachment to the kingdom. No, I want the kingdom. Kingdom has to be only mine. Actually, the Vedic philosophy is share and care. But Duryodhana's philosophy was I and mine. Best philosophy in life should be we and ours. But Duryodhana's philosophy always in life was I and mine. मैं और मेरा से हम आगे नहीं बढ़ पाते. हम और हमारा से हम बहुत आगे बढ़ पाते लाइफ में. Like that. Dhritarashtra. Let us see him at this point of time. So he knew what was the right dharma and what was the right act to do at that time. So he could have taken the part of righteousness and justice to the Pandavas. It was there in his capacity to do that. And he went on the other side. What was the other side? He was attached to being an emperor, as we discussed. He was supposed to be just a caretaker or a guardian of the empire, but he became attached. And second, he was attached to his son. See, if we are really well-wisher of our son, for example, let us say you have a son, and that son says that right now it is January cold, but I want to eat a lot of ice cream. Now, if you're truly a well-wisher of your son, then actually you will not allow him to eat that ice cream, or maybe you will just give him very little. But a person who actually doesn't love his son, but he thinks he loves, may try to fulfill all his demands, which may be wrong. Your child may say that I will cheat in the exam and I will bring marks. So if you're truly a well-wisher, and if you want to see his welfare in the long run, then you would tell him that no, take the right path. But Dhritarashtra here was a weak person, and he actually didn't know what was good for his son. And similarly, Dronacharya. What is the position of Dronacharya? He was taking the side of adharma. He could have taken the side of dharma, but his attachment to his own son, Ashwathama, who was attached to Duryodhana, was higher. So because, you see, anybody who's attached to a person with wrong attitude and mentality in life ultimately faces problems himself. For example, the people of Lanka, they were attached to Ravana. Ravana डूबा, उनको भी ले डूबा. Correct? And Vibhishan was showing him the right path, but he thought Vibhishan is my enemy. Similarly, Vidura was showing the right path to Dhritarashtra, but Dhritarashtra was not able to understand. And Dhritarashtra thought, I will be with Duryodhan and will win the king. But see, Dhritarashtra also sunk down in his life. Similarly, Dronacharya. Dronacharya was a good man, but somehow or other, he had the weakness. What was his weakness? He was attached to his son Ashwathama, who was the friend of Duryodhan. And because Ashwathama chose to be on the side of Duryodhan, therefore Dronacharya also chose the side of Duryodhan. And despite being in a glorious position, he died. So here is a scene from Dwarka. What is the scene? When the battle of Kurukshetra was announced, so both Kauravas and Pandavas started to look for allies. Like allies mean the different kingdoms in the world they would go to, so in some 2-3 months period of time, and they would request them, okay, you also join my side, you also fight from my side. And interestingly, both of them reached the same day to Krishna at Dwarka. And when Krishna got up, he saw both of them waiting for him. And then he said, oh, I understand why both of you have come. You both have come to seek the support of me, in the battle. Who said I will be Dwarka will be joining? Then Krishna said, okay, I'll make a fair deal to both of you. To one of you, I will give all my army, all my tens and thousands of soldiers, all their weapons and all their abilities will be there with you. All my money will be there. And with one of you, I will be there. But I will not fight. I'll just be there with you. That's all. Maybe I can share some guidance or something, but I'll not fight. So here were two options which Krishna gave. And Duryodhana was thinking, what is this foolishness? Are there two options at all? There is practically only one option. Army is going with one person only. And naturally, Krishna will give it to his friend Arjuna. So Duryodhana was feeling like that. And that time Krishna asked Arjuna, you choose first amongst both the options. And Duryodhana objected. Hey, how can you ask Arjuna to choose first? Krishna said, because he is younger. So we should give him chance first. And then Arjuna immediately said, he didn't even think for a moment. Immediately Arjuna said, Krishna, I want you. And Duryodhana became very happy in his heart. And Krishna asked Arjuna, hey Arjun, क्या बोल रहे हो तुम? Are you sure? एक बार वापस सोच लो. अरे मैं तुमको पहला मौका दे रहा हूँ, सोच लो एक बार वापस. And Arjuna immediately said, no, I want you. I'm crystal clear. I just want you. Any other option other than you, I don't want. Krishna said, ठीक है अभी आप इतना. Then Krishna looked at Duryodhana. So are you okay with my army? And Duryodhana was more than okay. He was super okay. He said, done, very nice. और दुर्योधन सोचा था अर्जुन तो एक नंबर का गधा निकला. मुझे मालूम था गधा है, लेकिन इतना गधा ये नहीं मालूम. And Duryodhana walked off. And Krishna looked at Arjuna. Arjuna, you fool! What did you do? I told you can choose my army. I gave you the first option somehow. Arjuna said with tears of love in his eyes, Arjuna said, my dear Krishna, I don't want anything in this world except you. And I have full faith that being with you, whatever situation I will be having in my life, that will be best. And Krishna was like, Krishna said, how much you love me. Anyway, so what point I was trying to share here is, so you see, Arjuna had faith and love for Krishna. And Duryodhana simply wanted something from Krishna, selfishly. Okay. So, why did we discuss this? Because the ultimate message of the Gita is, wherever there is Krishna, there is always victory. So if we have God on our side, and if we have love, if we have wisdom given by the God on our side, like Arjuna had Bhagavad Gita because he had Krishna, and he had Krishna himself with him. And therefore, he was victorious in the battle. You know what is the last verse of the Gita? The last verse, the very last verse. That is also same. It says, this is 78th verse of the 18th chapter. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, Tatra Shir Vijayo Bhutir Dhruvani Tirmatir Mama. Sanjay tells to Dhritarashtra after the battle of Kurukshetra is over. So Dhritarashtra has seen now for himself and heard that how the Pandavas won. Actually, that time he had not, I mean, it was not done. Battle was just about to begin. But the entire Gita was spoken and Dhritarashtra understood clearly. So Sanjay as if was making a prediction, was boldly declaring that अरे जहां पर भी कृष्ण है और जहां पर भी अर्जुन जैसा एक व्यक्ति है जो कृष्ण से श्रद्धा रखता है, कृष्ण में प्रेम करता है, तो वहां पर तो नेचुरली विक्ट्री होगी अल्टीमेटली. वो कहते हैं ना भगवान के कर देर है लेकिन अंधेर नहीं. So truly speaking, one who is sincere, you know, and one who is dutiful, and one who is dedicated to following God's instructions with faith, ultimately he will taste victory in his life. Just like you find Prahlad, you know, against Hiranyakashipu, just like you find Vibhishan against Ravana, just like you find Pandavas against Kauravas. In any field of life you see, ultimately truth and virtue will triumph. So this is the message of the Gita. Wherever there is Krishna, there is always victory. Okay. This is the second lesson we learned. What was the first lesson we learned? Yeah, you may try to recollect what was the first lesson we had learned. That being on Krishna's side, having dharma in our life, having God in our life, having bhakti in our life is far more, millions of times superior than having our own material expertise or relying on the things of this world. And the second is wherever there is Krishna, there is always victory. Okay. So the first lesson can more clearly be told as character and devotion are more important than competence and possessions. Relationships are more important than things. Okay, like that. And the lesson 2 is if I have Krishna in my life, if I have dharma in my life, ultimately I'll be victorious. Okay, so it seems that we'll need 10 minutes more to cover the first chapter today. So then we may not be able to take all the frequently asked questions. Maybe we'll cover half of them. So let's go ahead. So here we see the 14th verse of the Gita. The 12th and the 13th verse say, Bhishma Deva blew his conch shell, giving joy to Duryodhana. So these are the signs of victory, you know, the symbols of victory, the symptoms of victory that Pandavas are going to be victorious. What are they? Tata Shveter Hayer Yukte Mahati Sandane Sthitau Madhava Pandavaschaiva Divyo Shankho Pradadmatu. So the 15th to 18th verse, they list down the different conch shells. Krishna's conch shell was named as Panchajanya, Arjuna's was named as Devadatta, Yudhishthira was named as Ananta Vijaya, Bhima's conch shell was named as Poundra, Nakula's conch shell was named as Sughosha, Sahadev's was named as Manipushpaka. So when these great warriors on the Pandava side, when they blew their conch shell, Kuru's hearts were shattered. So this was also a sign of victory of the Pandavas. Signs of victory. So here are the 4 signs of victory. So on the left side of your screen, you may see Krishna and Arjuna blowing their conch shell. And see behind them, if you see behind them, Nakula, Sahadeva, Yudhishthira, Bhima, everyone was blowing their conch shell. All the heroes, all the leaders of Pandava. So these conch shells were divya. Divya means transcendental, divine. And that is why, so you see always the people who are not on the side of dharma, they always feel insecure. They want to attack. They want to somehow find fault in the people who are on the side of dharma, who are on the side of God. But people who are on the side of God need not fear. Okay. Second sign of victory you see on the right hand side, on the top, this chariot of Arjuna you are able to see. This chariot of Arjuna was given to him by Agni. And this chariot was symbolized to be victorious. So that was the second sign of victory. Third sign of victory, as you see in the middle picture of the right hand side, you see a small Hanumanji on the top. I hope you're able to see a small Hanumanji on the top of the chariot near the flag. So this Hanumanji, actually Hanumanji himself came. He wanted to see Krishna's devotee Arjuna doing some wonders. So Hanumanji had asked Lord Krishna, कि कृष्णा और राम तो एक ही हैं. तो अर्जुन हनुमान जी ने पूछा था, आप कहो तो मैं ही बैटल निपटा दूं. कृष्णा बोले नहीं नहीं, तुम चुपचाप बैठो. जो लंका का युद्ध हुआ था उसमें तुम हीरो थे, अभी थोड़ा अर्जुन को बनने दो, इस बार इसको मौका दो और पूरी दुनिया को देखने दो मेरा मेरा कितना अच्छा डिवोटी है. तो हनुमान जी बोले चलो ठीक है, मैं भी बैठ के देखता हूँ. मस्त. So he got a balcony seat or box office seat. And the fourth picture which you see on the bottom of the right hand side, this is the picture, this is a picture from Kurukshetra, like the place Kurukshetra. So because Kurukshetra was a holy place, you know, and therefore the influence of the holy place was there. So that was another sign of victory. So you find Krishna being the charioteer of Arjuna. See here, Krishna is acting as the charioteer. मतलब कृष्णा ड्राइवर थे अर्जुन के. देखो इस दुनिया में कोई बहुत बड़ा आदमी हो किसी का ड्राइवर बनेगा, वो भी एक छोटे आदमी का, कौन बनेगा? सोचो आप आपके सीईओ को या फिर आपके कॉलेज के डायरेक्टर को जाके बोलो, सर नई गाड़ी लेकर आए हैं, ड्राइवर बनोगे हमारे? सर बोलेंगे आई विल ड्राइव यू आउट फ्रॉम द कंपनी, आई विल ड्राइव यू आउट फ्रॉम द कॉलेज. मैं ड्राइवर दिखता हूँ तुमको? बट यू सी कृष्णा लविंगली बिकम्स अ चैरियट. क्यों? एक्चुअली द बैटलफील्ड ऑफ कुरुक्षेत्र represents this world. Arjuna's chariot represents our life or our body, and Arjuna represents us, the soul, the person. You know? So in this life, if we hand over the ropes of our chariot, you know, if we hand Krishna's teachings of Gita to guide us in our life in this world, then we also will be like Arjuna. Despite so many challenges, we will become victorious. Amazing, isn't it? So what Gita is asking us to do is to be like Arjuna. What is that? Which is to accept the teachings of the Gita, to apply them in our life, to allow Lord Krishna to guide our life and to ultimately become victorious. You know? And who is Arjuna? Arjuna was a husband, he had a wife, he had two wives. Arjuna was a father, Arjuna was a brother, Arjuna was a king, Arjuna had a profession, had a job, had a service to do. And that is why Gita was spoken not to a sannyasi, but to a general person of this world. And even a person who had great caliber. Okay. So you see, Gita is not about detachment. Gita is about attachment. Gita is about love. That how God loves us. He loves us so much that He is willing to become our charioteer. He is willing to guide our life in this world. So Krishna was not so attached to his image as God, as someone who is the greatest. He was more attached to loving his devotee like Arjuna, being the friend of his devotee. And who was Arjuna? Arjuna did not have much of the desire to enjoy the kingdom. He had more desire to help his kinsmen and all the soldiers, and he had more desire to serve Krishna. That is Arjuna. So what is the third lesson we learn from the Gita? That even the best to fully blossom their true potential. देखो अर्जुन जो थे बहुत ज्यादा काबिल व्यक्ति थे, वेरी एबल मैन, एंड स्टिल ही नीडेड गाइडेंस. मुझे याद है जब मैंने अपने बचपन में देखा था कि सचिन को क्यों कोचिंग की जरूरत है. My father used to tell that, oh, Sachin also needs a coach to learn how to bat nicely, and Sachin also and PT Usha needs a coach to run nicely. I would wonder why. I would laugh. अरे बैटिंग करने के लिए रनिंग करने के लिए आपको कोई कोच चाहिए क्या? Actually इस दुनिया में हर किसी को कोच चाहिए. You may be from IIT or NIT, but when you go to do a job in a company, you first need training and guidance. Even if you are the doctor from AIMS or the best of the medical colleges, you still have to first be like an apprentice under some practicing doctor. You may be the best CA with all the best best IAS officers. I know already. चाणक्य पंडित ने छोटे से चंद्रगुप्त मौर्य को पहचाना और उनके पोटेंशियल को बाहर लेकर आए. अगर चाणक्य नहीं होते तो चंद्रगुप्त नहीं होते. This is the first lesson we learn. Even the best people, the most able people like Arjuna need guidance in their life. There will be times when when they will have confusions. And second is the best time to evolve and learn in our life when we face obstacles and challenges. Obstacles and times. In the easy and happy and comfortable times, we do not learn life lessons. We hardly do. Like that. So but Arjuna denied, happily denied. So that was the character. So Arjuna had competence, Arjuna had character, and still there were times when he needed guidance. He was confused. So this is that verse of Gita, which I'm not reading right now, but this verse says that he was confused. Okay, and in the end of the first chapter, Arjuna gives these 5 arguments why he didn't want to fight. So here he was in the battle of Kurukshetra, and everyone wanted the battle to start. Everyone was waiting. Remember Bhima? They're all waiting. Let the battle begin. And Arjuna is there in the middle of the battlefield of Kurukshetra along with Krishna. And they both are there on the chariot. And instead of blowing the conch shell to start the battle, Arjuna starts crying. And these are the 5 reasons he gives in the end of the first chapter. What are the 5 reasons he gives that why I don't want to fight? He says, let me become compassionate. अरे कुछ तो दया दिखाने दो. यहाँ पे 64 करोड़ योद्धा लोग मौजूद हैं. क्यों इतने लोगों का कत्ल करना है हमें? क्यों हमको इतने लोगों का कत्ल करना चाहिए भाई? ये लोग खराब है तो क्या हम भी हों क्या खराब? So in order to become compassionate on them, he said, I don't want to fight. Second, loss of enjoyment. He said, even if I fight and even if I win with my blood-stained hands after having, killed so many people, will I be able to enjoy the kingdom, which will be red with the blood of all these people? So therefore, I don't want to. Third reason, if I kill so many people for my own selfish purpose of enjoying a kingdom, I will get so many sinful reactions. So there are so many people in this world who are rich today, who are handsome, who are having great knowledge, great fame, but yet they are not happy because they have so many sinful reactions, many wrong things they have done in life. Fourth, I belong to very great and pure dynasty. Nobody has acted in the past so selfishly. And if I kill all these people, their families will also abruptly face a halt. If I kill so many men, their wives will become widows. Their children will become orphans. So when the young wives are widows and the children are orphans, they may have to become immoral and sinful in order to further their life. So that will spread adharma in masses. So I should not do it. And fifth, because of all these reasons, I am confused all the more. Should I do it or not? So again, I think I am indecisive. So these are the 5 reasons which Arjuna gives. You see, here is Tiger Woods. Here is Steve Smith, the famous cricket batsman. Tiger Woods, you all know, the famous one. And people like Sushant Singh Rajput. And here is this, I forgot his name, is a famous comedian of Hollywood from America. Even these people who were practically at the greatest heights of successes in this world in different fields, so famous, so wealthy, stinkingly rich, so talented, surrounded by men, surrounded by women, media is talking about them, and yet, okay, this is Robin Williams. So just imagine, even these people were confused in their life. They needed guidance. We all know what happened in their lives. I hope you know. They had to face the worst of the demons from inside them. So from outside, situation will look different. Similarly, we all face. Actually, we become empowered. We should not feel shameful to express that. Yes, I also feel the need of a guide in my life. देखो एक बहुत बड़ा जहाज है टाइटैनिक, उसको भी कंपास की जरूरत पड़ती है, डायरेक्शन की जरूरत पड़ती है कि नहीं? इसी तरह से आप भले कितना ही अच्छा गिटार हो, जब तक आपके पास एक अच्छा प्लेयर नहीं होगा, तब तक आप उस गिटार में से बेस्ट आवाज कैसे निकल पाओगे? Even if you have the best pencil, let us say you have pencil worth 1000 rupees, single pencil, is it guaranteed that the pencil, when you use that pencil, it will draw beautiful things on paper? Not necessarily. It depends upon who is the artist holding that pencil. You may have the best mobile, the best laptop, but you need a good user to be able to bring out the true potential of that laptop. Similarly, we all have some abilities and some potentials. Each one of us have some unique abilities and potentials. But in order to bring them out, we need some able guide in our life who can represent God and Gita, who can be like Chanakya to bring out Chandragupta Maurya from within us. Like that. You may have simple ingredients in the kitchen, and or you may have the most costly ingredients in the kitchen, but depends upon the cook's expertise, that what will come out. So you see, and another lesson which we had learned was that the tough times in our life, challenging times in our life are the best, because we can learn that time. Just like you see this charcoal or this graphite and the diamond. So graphite, charcoal, and diamond, they are all C6 carbons, right? Technically. So when does the graphite turn to diamond? When the graphite or the carbon is willing to accept lot of pressure and temperature consistently over a period of time, then it turns to diamond. And that chunk of carbon or graphite or charcoal which is not willing to undergo the pressure and temperature, that remains as it is, simply black, useless C6 carbon. Diamond is also C6 carbon, but it is in different form now. Similarly, in our life, when pressure situations come, when the temperature rises up, as they say, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. If you sweat in peace, you will not have to bleed in the war. Like you see gold also. So there is a ore when you take out from the earth. So ore you will not be able to see the gold. But if you make the ore undergo the tough process of extraction, which involves a lot of heat and other things, then the pure gold will come out. Similarly, pure gold can come out from within us if we allow ourselves to go through that tough process. So embrace the challenges sportingly. See, the Gita came out when Arjuna faced a challenging situation, and the Bhagavatam came out when King Parikshit faced a challenging situation. So if they would not have faced the challenging situation, today we would not have the two of the greatest Vedic literature. Amazing, isn't it? The true potential of the Indians came out because of the independence movement. Or the government works, the ruling party works only because of the fear of the opposition party. Yeah. So Bhagavad Gita as it is our right choice. We can really empower ourselves by reading this Gita. अभी तो गीता चालू ही नहीं हुई है, ये तो बैकग्राउंड है गीता का. गीता तो सेकंड चैप्टर में 10th वर्स से चालू होती है, where Krishna starts speaking his teachings actually. Okay, this is about our understanding the need of the Gita. Okay, so like the car also needs the traffic signals. the guidance, the map. And there are so many factors based on which the car has to take a call. So our destination and our determination and the right direction we go. So what is the lesson for from the chapter 1? That Krishna is our heart-to-heart friend. We need not face any confusions and any difficulties in our life if we simply accept Krishna as our best friend. And Krishna, being the friend of Arjuna, protected him at various times. Bhishma Dev, in the first picture, Bhishma Dev was about to kill Arjuna, and Krishna protected him. In the second picture, this was Jayadratha. So Jayadratha it was almost sure Arjuna was about to die only, pakka, after the death of Abhimanyu on the next day. But Krishna saved him miraculously. So in some other session, I'll be sharing with you this story in detail. But it's a fantastic story actually, how Krishna saved Arjuna. Whoever connects with Krishna, Krishna will be there to help him in a most miraculous way. जैसे द्रौपदी को बचाया था कृष्णा ने, गजेंद्र को बचाया था, ऐसे राम के रूप में शबरी के पास गए थे, लक्ष्मण को बचाया था, लाइक दैट. और ऐसे ही नीचे भी दो पास टाइम है, अभी हम नहीं शेयर कर रहे हैं, बट many times, even more than these, Krishna protected Arjuna. He was there always as the invisible friend. So if one makes friendship with Krishna, like here Sudama did, if one makes friendship with Krishna, one will never be cheated in this world, and he will get all the help he will ever need. Yeah, thanks to Golu, he's reminding us that this was Ghatotkacha. Yes, that's true. Shashwat will just take 1 or 2 minutes, and then we can have a question. So this is the last slide we are having. So this is Krishna and Sudama. So they were childhood friends. Okay, and on the right hand side you see Drupada and Drona. They were also childhood friends from the days of their Gurukul. So when they grew up, Krishna and Sudama grew up, and Drupada and Drona grew up. They were from different Gurukuls. So Sudama remained a poor Brahmana in Porbandar, Gujarat area, and Krishna became the king of Dwarka. And similarly, Dronacharya was a poor Brahmana later on, having his own ashram, and Drupada became the great king, okay, of his province. So when they grew up, so Sudama grew up, and at one point of time he needed help. He went to Dwarka to approach his friend Krishna. And similarly, Dronacharya was once in need, and he also approached Drupada in his kingdom, in his palace. You know what happened? In both the places, there was an intense situation. In the palace of Dwarka, where Sudama met Krishna, there was intense love. Krishna welcomed Sudama with great love. Sudama, Sudama. It's like Sudama just couldn't believe in it. No one could believe that अरे कृष्णा इतने बड़े राजा हैं और ऐसे पूर ब्राह्मण से इतना इंटीमेटली बात कर रहे हैं. कृष्णा उनको अंदर लेकर गए, गार्लैंड पहनाया, उनके पैर स्वयं ने खुद ने धोए और उस पानी को अपने सभी के परिवार वालों के ऊपर छिड़का. और लक्ष्मी जी स्वयं कृष्ण के साथ उन्होंने सुदामा की सेवा करी. कृष्ण ने उनको फीस्ट खिलाया, उनके साथ ढेर सारी बातें करी, कई दिन उनके साथ बिताए, और बाद में जब भेजा उनको तो बहुत बड़ा पैलेस भी दे दिया, कितना कुछ दे दिया. सुदामा को इतना रेस्पेक्ट, इतना प्रेम मिला कृष्ण से, और इतना सब कुछ मिला कि वो ओवरवेल्म्ड हो गए. और द्रुपद और द्रोणा का मीटिंग कैसा रहा? द्रुपद ने द्रोणाचार्य को पहचानने से इनकार कर दिया. I don't even know you, and how can you claim to be my friend? You are like a dirty street dweller, you're like a nobody, and I am such a great, such a wealthy king. Who gave you the right to even claim that you are my friend? Hey, get out of here, otherwise I'll get you expelled out from the kingdom. And Dronacharya decided that he has intensely disrespected me, and made me a joke, a laughing stock in front of others. I'll show him one day. So you see, friendship with Krishna will never go in vain. Krishna doesn't see what we have, he sees our heart. He sees what we want to offer to Krishna. So like that. So so this is the conclusion of our chapter 1 today. So it is exactly 7:32 and we must stop here. Actually, I really wanted to take this FAQs, frequently asked questions, but I think we can begin our tomorrow's session with these questions. So the first 20 minutes will cover these questions. What are these questions? I'll just show you the questions. So these questions are: is spirituality meant just for old people, or even the young should practice? How is Gita relevant in today's modern world? Does it give solution to practical real life problems, or is it just sit down and chant Krishna Rama Govinda, join some ashram, go to some forest, eat some prasad? That's all. Can I be spiritual without being religious? I don't want to just wear some sadhu's dress or become a padri, father or mullah or something. So can I be spiritual in my office? Can I be spiritual while being married and taking care of my sons and daughters? Can I be spiritual when I'm in the battlefield myself in the army? Can I be spiritual in my lab? Can I be spiritual while making a business deal? Can I understand the Gita without accepting Lord Krishna as God? To progress on the path of spirituality, do I need to be renounced like a monk? What is heaven? What is hell? Is there something called next life? What is the goal of my life? So, what do the scriptures say? Is there a practical and effective meditation process which I can practice in today's age? Then what is it? So, like that. Why do bad things happen to good people? And why do good things happen to bad people? So these are some of the things which we'll see in the beginning of our tomorrow's session. Thank you very much once again for all of your patience and spending your valuable time and using your intelligence and your sensual abilities to actually learn about Lord's teachings, the greatest Bhagavad Gita. Thank you. May Lord Krishna bless you. May Shri Radha Gopal ji bless you. Hare Krishna. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So feel free to share your questions and feedback before tomorrow's session if you have any. With you may contact any of our coordinator. This is Murli Krishna, who is the host right now, co-host, and you can share there if you have any comments or anything. Hare Krishna.
We are very thankful for next session tomorrow, and any questions or any comments you can directly message us. As you are all in the WhatsApp group, you will see the admins, you can send to the admins, Himanshu or me. Okay, thank you.